Pokémon is a game marketed towards children, but competitive Pokémon is a game for adults with developed minds, which means you don't get to form nice bonds or win with your favorites. Unless you're just that good. But I'm no VGC World Champion, so I need the strongest Pokémon I can get my hands on if I want a shot at winning. And I'd do anything to get those strong Pokémon, even if it means stealing from somebody else. Hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to be doing 8 battles on the online ranked double battle ladder, and for every win that I get, I'm going to be stealing one Pokemon from my opponent's team of my choice. If I can win 6 battles, I'll have a full team of the strongest Pokemon there are, and then I'll be unstoppable in achieving world domination. As a lowly Team Rocket grunt, our company provided options for Pokemon are pretty limited. From this group of rejects, I need to create the strongest team I can to at least give me a chance at winning some battles. So first I'll need one central Pokemon to build the rest of the team around. What Pokemon is the strongest of the weakest? And that Pokemon is Malamar. Malamar?
Huh?
This thing's highest base stat is 92. It couldn't possibly have any potential, I hear you saying. Well, on the contrary. Malamar's power lies in its ability Contrary. This ability reverses the effects of any stat changes applied to Malamar, so if Malamar's stats are boosted from a move like Calm Mind, they'll be lowered instead. But more importantly, when Malamar's stats are supposed to be lowered, they'll be raised instead. And Malamar can take advantage of this in a big way. Enter Superpower, a 120 base power physical fighting move that lowers the user's attack and defense stats by 1 stage, meaning with Contrary, this already incredibly powerful move will also make Malamar even stronger every time it's used. I'll give Malamar Knockoff as a strong same type attack bonus move that'll also allow me to hit those pesky ghost types that Superpower can't hit. Since Malamar will be my biggest threat, opponents are going to want to get rid of it as fast as possible, so I'll need the move Protect to avoid taking big damage for a turn. And for Malamar's final move, I'm going to do something a little crazy. I'm going to give Malamar Rest. No, not that Rest. Rest puts the user to sleep for 2 turns, but unlike in Smash Bros, it also fully recovers the user's HP, and removes any previous status effects that you had. This is the best form of HP recovery that Malamar gets. Putting yourself to sleep is a major downside, so I'm going to give Malamar a Chesto Berry as its item. This will instantly wake Malamar up the first time it's put to sleep and be consumed. This well-known strategy is called Resto Chesto. I'll train Malamar with an adamant nature and enough attack investment to get the bump. Then I'll max out Malamar's HP stat and put the rest into special defense. And finally, I'll give Malamar Steel Terra so it can resist the fairy and bug type attacks that it would normally be weak against. Now, I need a good support option to pair along with Malamar to help me get set up. So I'm going to ask the boss to loan me his Persian. Persian gets access to Stab Technician boosted Fake Out to stop an opponent for 1 turn, and Feint to break Protects that'll stop my Malamar from setting up with Superpower. I'll put a Focus Sash on this Persian to allow it to at least live 1 hit, and I'll give it Endeavor so that if it does get brought down to Focus Sash, it can put an opposing Pokemon down to 1 HP. And finally, I'll round out Persian's moveset with Fake Tears. Normally this move just lowers an opponent's special defense by 2 stages, but if I use it into my own Malamar, I can raise its special defense by 2 stages. I'll train my Persian to be max speed and max attack since bulk doesn't really matter with the Focus Sash. I shouldn't ever be terrestrializing Persian, but if I do, I'll be Terra Ghost to avoid being hit by a Fake Out or super effective fighting type moves. Boosting Malamar's special defense with Fake Tears is a cool niche option, but I'd like a strong special attacker so I can also take advantage of Fake Tears' intended purpose. So I went with Yanmega. I'm going to go with a Tinted Lens Choice Spec set. This means Yanmega can spam a single strong special attack without worrying about what type the opponent is. I'll give Yanmega Bug Buzz as its strongest stab attack, and Air Slash as a weaker option that has a chance of flinching. U-Turn will allow Yanmega to switch out while dealing a little bit of damage, and that's all you really need on a Tinted Lens Yanmega set. You could use Ancient Power or Sleep Talk for the last slot, but I'm going to go with Uproar. I'll give Yanmega a Timid nature and max out its speed and special attack. Yanmega is pretty frail, so I'll give it a Steel Terra type so it can resist flying and rock type attacks. One of Malamar's biggest weaknesses is that it's slow, so I'll be attacking after my opponents most of the time. That's why I want a Trick Room setter that can reverse the speed order to allow Malamar to attack first. Fortunately, I have a reliable Trick Room setter with Mimikyu. As a ghost type, Mimikyu cannot be hit by Fake Out, which otherwise would prevent me from getting Trick Room set up and also break my disguise. Opponents could still stop me from using Trick Room with the move Taunt. I'll give Mimikyu the Mental Herb item, which will prevent Taunt from working one single time. I'll give Mimikyu Play Rough as its strongest stab move and Shadow Sneak as a stab priority option. And I'll round out Mimikyu's moveset with Will-O-Wisp to lower an opponent's physical damage output. I'll max out Mimikyu's HP and attack stats and give it the Brave Nature and 0 Speed IV so Mimikyu can get the most out of its own Trick Room. So I'm going to give Mimikyu the Grass Terra type, which prevents the two most common sleep-inducing moves, Sleep Powder and Spore, from affecting it, and stops Rage Powder from redirecting my Will-O-Wisps. But if I'm going to go down the Trick Room route, I'll need another slow Pokemon to make use of it since Persian and Yanmega are pretty fast. And there's no more obvious answer than Amoonguss. Please don't hate me for this. James did use an Amoonguss in the Black and White anime, but I won't blame you for not knowing that because Black and White anime was pretty bad. Amoonguss is one of the strongest Pokemon in VGC history. If you've played any VGC since Gen 5, I'm sure you're sick of seeing this guy, so I'm going to do a quick rundown. I'll give Amoonguss a Rocky Helmet to counter physical attackers and the Regenerator ability so I can recover HP. I'll have Spore to put a target to sleep, Rage Powder to redirect attacks, Clear Smog to stop opponents from increasing their stats, Pollen Puff to heal half of an ally's health or deal some damage. I'll give Amoonguss enough HP EVs to get to 219 total HP, and then I'll split the rest between defense and special defense. This Amoonguss will be minimum speed to make the most use out of Trick Room, and its Terra type will be water so I have a good counter to Urshifu Rapid Strike and Torkoal. So far, I'm pretty happy with how the team's turning out, but I want to finish with a boom. My final Pokemon will be Weezing, but not just any Weezing. Choice Band Terra Normal Explosion Weezing. Explosion is a 250 base power normal type move that deals damage to all Pokemon on the field at the cost of all the user's HP. Weezing pairs perfectly with Mimikyu, since Mimikyu is immune to normal type attacks and can set up the Trick Room, which Weezing benefits from due to its low 60 base speed stat. I'll also teach Weezing Gunk Shot and Assurance for alternative damage options, and Destiny Bond as a last ditch effort. I'll max out Weezing's HP and attack EVs and give it the Brave Nature plus attack and minus speed with 0 speed IVs. But unlike most Weezings, I'm going to use the Levitate ability rather than Neutralizing Gas. Neutralizing Gas prevents the effects of all other abilities while Weezing is on the field, which is a great ability. But Malamar's Contrary is just so important that I can't risk messing everything up by having Weezing on the field. So I'll just stick with my ground immunity, thank you very much. And with that, we have our team. If things go as planned, this won't be our team for very long. But before we get into any battles, I've got something to say. At the time of making this video, I have only about 500 subscribers. If you think the quality of this video is worth more than that, then I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me, and it shows me that I should continue to make content like this, because, well, this is my first time making a video like this, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So much so that the battles you're about to see are from all the way back in Regulation G. With that being said, let's get to the challenge. Alright, so the first team we're going to be up against is a Rain Kyogre team. Looks like we're going to have to deal with Urshifu Rapid Strike. I definitely want to set Trick Room up. That's like #1 priority. So I think I want to go this. Bro, there's literally no shot of me winning. My #1 priority here is to get Trick Room up, and I can definitely do that by Rage Powdering with Amoonguss so that Urshifu can't hit me with the Surging Strikes. We also have the Rocky Helmet, so if the Urshifu does attack my Amoonguss, it's going to be hit with 3 Rocky Helmet hits. As long as this Urshifu doesn't have safety goggles, and it doesn't. This is perfect. Mimikyu's disguise is intact, so it can survive whatever this Kyogre throws at us. And we're going to see an Origin Pulse, hits both. Amoonguss stays alive, which is actually huge because that means I'll be able to get off a Spore next turn. I'd love to just Spore the Kyogre, but the chance of it being Grass Tear is pretty high. I do think it's worth it, though, to force them to Terra. I'm gonna try to spore into the Kyogre. Will not be surprised if we see a Terra, but we don't. And that puts Kyogre to sleep, which will put it out for this turn for sure. And we see Mimikyu, thanks to the min speed, will go before the Urshifu and knock it out. This is going great for us. We might actually get a win. I thought we'd lose a few before I actually got my first restricted on the team. But if I can win this one, then I'll be able to get Kyogre on my team, which isn't the strongest restricted in the format. So I wonder if it would be a better strategy to take something like Urshifu. But then I'd have to go another game without having a restricted legendary. We're going to see Sneasler come in. Sneasler is able to fake out the Amoonguss, but that'll actually do Rocky Helmet chip to it. And I can get off a Will-O-Wisp into the Sneasler. And then I'm thinking this might be a good time for me to try to get in Wheezing and hope that the Kyogre doesn't wake up this turn. This will also get me Regenerator healing on the Amoonguss. So it'll come in with about half health. We see we connect the Will-O-Wisp. The Sneasler does not go for Fake Out on the Amoonguss. You might see a Dire Claw into Mimikyu. The Kyogre does wake up. Ooh. And that's gonna knock out both of my Pokemon. Looks like I risked too much on the 2-turn sleep. And that might have thrown this game away. Now I do still have a few more turns of Trick Room, so I can put the Kyogre back to sleep and start setting up with Malamar. But I went from a really good position to a losing position. Since they didn't Grass Terra last time, I'm going to expect them to just not have the Grass Terra. And I'm going to go for the Spore again. We also know they're not Choice Specs or Choice Scarf, because they went for Origin Pulse and then Water Spout. So they could definitely have Protect. They could also be Assault Vest. It is a pretty common Kyogre, although they do have an Archaludon, which is probably Assault Vest. So I'm gonna Superpower and Spore. I also still have my Terra. Okay, good. No Terra. Kyogre goes back to sleep. I believe I have one more turn of Trick Room after this. We're going to connect the Superpower. Get a crucial defense boost. And let's see what the Sneasler goes for here. We're going to see a Throat Chop into Malamar, and that does nothing. With the +1 defense and the burn, I can probably just ignore the Sneasler and only focus on the Kyogre now. So I'm going to go for a knockoff onto the Kyogre slot. And a Pollen Puff as well, just to get some more damage in. No! And the Dire Claw puts my Amoonguss to sleep. You can never count a Sneasler out with Dire Claw. We run out of Trick Room, and things just took a really bad turn. We need this Kyogre to stay asleep this turn. It's unlikely, but I don't think there's any other way we win. I might have to go for a rest here. No, I can't. I have to bank on this Kyogre staying asleep and hitting this Superpower. We see Sneasler switches. That'll allow it to Fake Out in the future. And their last Pokemon is Tornadus. That's actually very good for us. And Kyogre stays asleep! Which means Superpower connects. Now we have a +2 attack, +2 defense Malamar against a burned low HP Sneasler and a Tornadus. Now they do have Fake Out on their Sneasler. I could Terra the Amoonguss so that Bleak Wind Storm isn't super effective to me, but I think the correct play is to save my Terra for Malamar and protect this turn in order to avoid getting hit with the Fake Out. And I'll try to spore the Tornadus. We see them Dire Claw into the Mungus, which means the Rocky Helmet combined with the burn damage, this damage is adding up. We see Amoonguss does not avoid the Bleak Wind Storm. And I know the play. So I can Terra into the Steel type, which will make me weak to the Sneaslor's fighting type attacks. But it'll also make me immune to Dire Claw, which is the one way I can lose this game, is with a Dire Claw Paralysis. If we get put to sleep with Dire Claw, doesn't matter, because I have the Chesto Berry. But a Paralysis would lose me the game. And I can probably one-shot this Tornadus with Knockoff, although it could have a Focus Sash. And then next turn I can Protect, and Sneasler will faint from the burn damage. And we see all the Tornadus does is go for a Tailwind. Not sure why. And they go for Close Combat! But thanks to the burn and +2 defense. And they didn't get a crit. And the Tornadus is Focus Sash. Wait, it's not Focus Sash! It was Covert Cloak, and it just happened to survive with what looks like 1 health. It looks like Sneasler might not faint to this burn damage. I might have just thrown this game away. Their decision to close combat there is crazy to me. Dire Claw was your only way of winning this game, is what it seemed. And the Tailwind for no reason when you're already faster with both Pokemon. Guaranteed. There's no way a Malamar could be faster. And it's still alive! I might have just thrown this game away. The only way for me to win here is to survive the close combat and Bleak Wind, and then rest. It's the only way. And here we see the close combat. They don't crit. I need to survive this Bleak Wind in order to win. Oh, you know what? And we dodge. I just realized I did not need to rest because the Sneasler was going to die to burn damage. All I had to do was attack the Tornadus. But I got to show off my rest. My Resto Chesto. And I have somehow miraculously won this battle thanks to Kyogre staying asleep. I don't believe there's any way for Tornadus to knock me out unless a Focus Blast comes out of nowhere. But no, we just see the Bleak Wind Storm, and that's the game. Meaning I get to steal my first Pokemon. Very surprised to start off 1-0. So now it's time for me to choose who to steal, and I'm thinking I've got to go with Kyogre. Now the obvious choice, I'm going to be stealing my opponent's Kyogre. This will give us a restricted legendary, which should put us closer to the playing field of our opponents. I'm going to be running an Assault Vest set, since I felt like a Choice Scarf set wouldn't work well on a team that is pretty Trick Room reliant. And the Assault Vest is more flexible to be able to use outside and in Trick Room. Other option was Choice Specs. I felt like with my only form of speed control being the Trick Room, it would be hard to consistently get off large amounts of damage from moves like Water Spout. Being able to change what move I'm using should allow my Kyogre to stay on the battlefield for longer. I'm going to go with a Grass Terra to avoid electric type attacks and being put to sleep from Spore and Sleep Powder. This will also stop Rage Powder from redirecting my Thunder or Ice Beam. And I'm going to be going with a Modest Nature with HP, Special Attack, and Defense investment. I'm going to go for Origin Pulse Water Spout to get off big chunks of stab damage, and then Thunder and Ice Beam for coverage. Ideally, I should be able to bring this Kyogre to every single matchup I play in, which is a big reason why I went for Assault Vest instead of a choice item. I decided to replace Yen Mega, since it kind of fills that same special attacker role as Kyogre. So we're going to see the booster energy on the Iron Valiant. I think I actually don't want a Trick Room here. Instead, I want to Will-O-Wisp the Calyrex and Terra Water Spore with Amoonguss into the Iron Valiant. Although, I wonder about the possibility of a misty terrain coming out. No Terras on their side. And we see Protect from the Calyrex. And Coaching. Interesting. So we're going to get the Spore off. And my Mimikyu should be faster than this Calyrex. So I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp again. And then switch my Amoonguss into Kyogre. They're going to switch out their Iron Valiant. And unfortunately, we connect the Will-O-Wisp. Burning this Calyrex will be huge. It does still have +1 attack, but this Glacial Lance should not do much to my Kyogre. And we see it does very little. Now, unfortunately, they made a great play by sending this Raging Bolt in. But thanks to my Assault Vest, I think I actually just want to stay in with the Kyogre and get as much damage as I can onto this Calyrex. So I'm going to go for a Play Rough into the Raging Bolt. And then go for a Origin Pulse. And we're going to see a Terra on their side on maybe their Raging Bolt. It is their Raging Bolt. This is to avoid taking super effective damage from my Play Rough. Oh no! It's to hit my Kyogre for a devastating attack. But thanks to my Assault Vest, I should live this. And I do live. And we see they're a Life Orb, offensive. And that Origin Pulse connects on both, does huge damage, and the Play Rough finishes off Raging Bolt. Will the Calyrex finish off my Kyogre here? If not, then I'm in great position still. And the Kyogre hangs on with 8 health. And we're going to see Burn chip away at this Calyrex. We know that Kyogre is faster. I expect them to bring in their 4th Pokemon, and we do see the Ogerpon. There's a good chance that this Ogerpon outspeeds my Kyogre. Actually, I have very little speed investment. There's a very high chance, almost guaranteed chance, that this Ogerpon outspeeds my Kyogre. And I don't want to bring Amoonguss in. Wait, I do want to bring Amoonguss in, because my Amoonguss is a Water type, so it won't take super effective damage from this Glacial Lance. But I really don't want to give this Calyrex a defense boost, so I'm actually going to swap both of my Pokemon out. Now, as long as this Ogerpon didn't use a Grass-type move into my Kyogre, we see a Protect from the Calyrex and an Ivy Cudgel. And that does a lot of damage. Very likely that this is a very offensive Ogerpon based on that damage. But if I can just get some defense boosts from Superpower, I should be good. And the Calyrex does not have a guaranteed Protect. Might be worth it for me to just go for Knockoff here. Although if they use Follow Me on the Ogerpon, I want Superpower to come out. I'm going to go with Superpower. And then I'll click Pollen Puff as well. We see the Power Rip come out. That knocks out Amoonguss. We get a little bit of Rocky Helmet chip damage. That'll break Sturdy on the Ogerpon. And wasn't a mistake for me clicking Superpower instead of Knockoff here. We outspeed the Calyrex. We hit the Superpower. It does nothing thanks to the Coaching Boost. I forgot about the Coaching Boost. But thanks to the burn and the defense boost, it doesn't do a lot of damage. And it looks like this Calyrex will survive another turn of burn damage. I want to save Kyogre for once the Ogerpon is dealt with. So I'm going to bring in Mimikyu. Right here, I want to try to Shadow Sneak the Calyrex and Superpower the Ogerpon. If they follow me with the Ogerpon, the Superpower will redirect and knock out the Ogerpon. And we see no follow me, so this Shadow Sneak will take out the Calyrex. And I don't think there's any way other than an Ivy Cudgel crit for this Ogerpon to knock out my Malamar. And we see the Ivy Cudgel actually goes into the Mimikyu. So this superpower should knock out the Ogerpon and put us at 2-0. And that's the game. So now I have another decision to make. Another Pokemon to steal. Oh! But there's one more Pokemon. Iron Valiant, that's right. I forgot. I forgot they even had this guy still. Well, Iron Valiant is guaranteed to sleep for this turn. And already used its item, so there's no point in me going for knockoff. I don't think Thunder will do enough damage. But I really don't want to have to rely on hitting Origin Pulses. I think the safe play is to just try to Thunder. So they're going to use their sleep turn. Let's see how much damage Thunder does. And it does over half. That's great. And now Superpower +2. It doesn't knock out. If they happen to be a Dazzling Gleam set and wake up here, but they don't wake up, and that's the game. And now I can make the decision of which Pokemon to steal. We've got some pretty good options. I'm thinking Raging Bolt might be the best one and replace Weezing. And after that game, that'll put us halfway through Ultra Ball tier. So from my opponent's team, I decided to select Raging Bolt. I would have liked to select Urshifu, but since they didn't bring it, I'm not sure if it's Rapid Strike or Single Strike. A Rapid Strike would go great with Kyogre, but Raging Bolt is still an excellent Mon in Regulation G. Usually Assault Vest would be best on Raging Bolt, but I already have that on Kyogre and I don't want to give that up. So I'm going to be going with a Booster Energy set with Terra Electric, and just going to be outputting some strong Electric type moves with Thunderclap and Thunderbolt, and then Draco Meteor for just a big burst of Dragon type stab damage. For the EVs, I did max HP with pretty much max special attack and a little bit of speed and special defense investment. And basically this thing should just be a consistent, bulky special attacker that should help us out. Alright, we're going to be going up against Chi-Yu, Zamazenta, Ogerpon, Wellspring, Rillaboom, Fluttermane, and Chien-Pao. Pretty threatening team, so we got to watch out for the Chi-Yu Fluttermane lead. And then Chien-Pao Zamazenta is always a threat. Alright, Fluttermane Ogerpon. So the Ogerpon, that's bad for our Kyogre, but I am able to fake it out. We see a Booster Energy from the Fluttermane Speed, which tells me that it's likely a Thunder Wave set. Usually what I expect when I see the Booster Speed. I feel like I want to Origin Pulse and fake out. Alright, we're going to see a Spiky Shield, so that's going to break my Focus Sash since I went for Fake Out. The Fluttermane is going to go for Icy Wind, so yeah. Icy Wind tells me that it definitely is the Moonblast, Thunder Wave, Icy Wind Protect set, which is very common. Hopefully this Origin Pulse doesn't miss, and it connects. So this should do more than half. Yep, pretty good damage. I don't want to get hit with a grass type move from this Ogerpon. I also don't want to bring out Raging Bolt and start getting hit by fairy type attacks. I could Terra, which I feel like I want. They don't really have much for grass type attacks, but they do have Chien-Pao. I also need to start dealing with that Ogerpon. I think I'm gonna Terra, Origin Pulse, and I'm gonna. I ran out of time. What I was gonna do was I was gonna try to Endeavor the Ogerpon with my Persian. Which, since it has such a low HP stat... Oh, that Endeavor... An Endeavor there... That's on me. That's completely my fault. And we do see Chien Pao, so now it's actually unfortunate that I Terra'd. And I didn't bring really anything to deal with this Chien Pao now that I'm Terra'd. I'd love to preserve this Persian and get a Endeavor off later on in the game, so I'm actually going to switch into Raging Bolt this turn. Do a double switch. I expect to see a Icicle Crash into my Kyogre slot and either a Horn Leech or an Ivy Cudgel into my Raging Bolt slot, which I would resist both. And we are going to see the Icicle Crash. And it misses! That's huge. We preserve the disguise on Mimikyu, and now I'll actually probably be able to get up Trick Room. They also won't be able to KO my Raging Bolt unless they double up, unless they Icicle Crash it. I could try to protect, but that would risk them doubling up in a Mimikyu, which would really put me behind in this game. I think what I need to do is try to Thunderbolt the Chien Pao, which is my biggest threat right now. I should have Thunderclapped. I should have Thunderclapped. Because I knew they weren't going to Sucker Punch. These mistakes are costing me. Not looking good for this game. I really need to think more. Because now this Chien Pao still has Focus Sash up. I am going to be able to bring back in Kyogre. And with the Grass Terra, this Ogerpon won't be able to hit me that hard. Now what I can do is Shadow Sneak the Chien Pao to break its Focus Sash. And then Origin Pulse. And the Chien Pao protects. Are we just going to see a double protect? If we see a double protect, I don't mind we don't see a double protect. And that's probably the game. The Mimikyu faints. But the correct play would have been a Will-O-Wisp and a Thunder. As now the rain stops. I don't see any way I can win this game. Yeah, I'm gonna have to forfeit here. That puts us at 2-1, unfortunately. Means I will not be able to steal a Pokemon. That's going to drop us lower into Ultra Ball rank. Man, how different that battle would have been if I got my Endeavor off. Ogerpon would have been at low HP. I would have been able to KO it with Shadow Sneak. Chien Pao still would have been an issue. Now we're going to be going up against a Calyrex Ice. This is a very standard team. Very boring standard team. If I win, I will be able to get Urshifu or Incineroar. I'm going to try going for a Malamar setup here. The Amoonguss makes this much more difficult. Now I do have the Chesto Berry. Can't imagine they just click Surging Strikes when there's an Amoonguss right in front of them. So I'd love to just try to Spore into that slot. But I'm going to have to go with the Rage Powder. They don't protect, and they don't switch out. Would you see the double Rage Powder? So they're not going to be trying to Spore my Malamar. And they Surging Strikes into the Amoonguss thanks to the Raging Powder. So now they're going to be taking Rocky Helmet damage. And I'm going to be getting a Superpower off into their Amoonguss, which I expect to do Rocky Helmet damage to me. That's going to do, I think, 3/8 of their health. Superpower does very little, but we get our attack and defense increase, which actually doesn't matter against Urshifu. And they are Rocky Helmet. Oh wow, that Rocky Helmet damage does about half of their health. Huh. Didn't think it did that much. It must be 1/6 of their health. Well, I think it would be worth it for me to try to go for a knockoff into the Amoonguss. I expect the Amoonguss to try to Spore my Malamar. So I'm going to try to Spore into their Urshifu. Instead of just Rage Powdering again, I expect them to switch out. And they do. I want to see Calyrex here. And there it is. We're going to get a Spore into the Calyrex. This is huge. I expect them to try to spore. Okay, they protect the Amoonguss. That makes sense. The Calyrex is guaranteed to be asleep this turn. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to switch my Amoonguss out into Kyogre. I was thinking about knocking off the Amoonguss, but I think getting this knockoff into the Calyrex slot will matter more because it'll allow Kyogre to knock it out on this following turn, assuming it stays at full health here. But we do see the Rage Powder, so the knockoff will go into the Amoonguss instead. That does a lot better damage than I expected, which means I'll be able to go for a Water Spout here, which will put me in a really good position. And I don't even need to Terra here. I can just safely knock off into the Calyrex and Water Spout. But I do know that my Kyogre is faster than my Malamar. And we see the Rage Powder, which won't matter. There's the Water Spout. And this knockoff will finish off the Calyrex. This is going much better than last game. Okay, so their final two are Raging Bolt and Urshifu. So a Grass Terra on my Kyogre is looking amazing here. And I can just switch Malamar here into Amoonguss. Now I wonder if they're Choice Scarf. I think it's more important I get damage onto the Raging Bolt here. I'm gonna bring in Amoonguss and Terra, which tells me that if they Terra'd the Raging Bolt, it's slower than my Kyogre. The Grass Terra with the Assault Vest means neither of these Pokemon can do much damage, and they Surging Strikes into the Malamar slot, which means we get our 3 turns of Rocky Helmet chip again. Ice Beam connects, does over half, and they just Thunderbolt into our Assault Vest Kyogre, and that does very little, and I expect a forfeit on this turn. And there it is. So now I get to choose one Pokemon, and the obvious choices are Incineroar and Urshifu. Now Incineroar would be a great replacement for Persian, because I still get a Fake Out user. And if I plan on replacing Kyogre in the future, Incineroar would go well. But Urshifu was also one of the best Pokemon in the format. Being able to get a Choice Scarf in the rain Urshifu, I feel like it'd be hard for me to pass that up. And our updated rank, we're back to halfway through Ultra Ball. So I decided to go with Scarf Urshifu here with a Stellar Terra type. No matter what restricted I'm working with, this will be a good Pokemon on my team. I went with Surging Strikes, Close Combat U-Turn, and Ice Spinner, no Aqua Jet, and an Adamant Nature with max speed, almost max attack. Okay, we're up against another Kyogre team, but if I win, I'll be able to get either Incineroar or Rillaboom, which would be amazing. Roaring Moon is interesting. And I actually don't really see Urshifu being able to do much here. And I want to get the Trick Room up, so I'm going to go with Raging Bolt. Alright, we're going to see the double grass types. Well, I really need to get this Trick Room set up, but I also really want to keep that Grass Terra for Kyogre. You know what? I think it is worth it. If I can just get enough damage onto Rillaboom with my Amoonguss with the Pollen Puffs. And if I can get a Will-O-Wisp from Mimikyu. And this Grass Terror will basically make this Amoonguss pretty much useless against what I have out in the field. So I'm going to go for it. I need to play knowing that I won't have Grass Terra for this Kyogre. We're going to see Drum Beating. And I expect a Spore into the Mimikyu slot. And we see a Sludge Bomb! My Mimikyu survives, but what an insane play to go for. Well, I don't want to get hit with another Sludge Bomb and have my Mimikyu get knocked out, but I also really want to hit this Will-O-Wisp on this Rillaboom. And the Trick Room means now their Amoonguss is a big threat. I actually might have just put myself in a really bad position. I don't think I'll be able to deal with this Amoonguss. It's just going to spore the rest of my team. I needed to save my Grass Terra for Kyogre. We're going to see a U-turn into Amoonguss, so I'll get a little bit of Rocky Helmet chip. They're going to send out the Roaring Moon, which is in danger of getting spored, but I expect them to know that and to play around it. So I'm expecting a Protect from the Roaring Moon. They're just going to be able to spore me. So I actually need to... I need to stall out my own Trick Room now. Really didn't think hard enough about how much of a problem Amoonguss would be for me. So since I need to stall it out, I think the correct play here is to Protect and then try to spore the Roaring Moon. Although they probably just want to bring Rillaboom back in to click Fake Out. So actually, I'm going to click Pollen Puff on the Roaring Moon, expecting a switch, and they don't switch. But maybe they Protect. They do Protect. Okay, it didn't matter. Nothing's going to happen this turn, basically. But now that I have shown that I Pollen Puffed instead of Spore, now I think I should try to Spore into the Roaring Moon. Is that crazy? Will they just bring out Rillaboom next turn? If they do, it actually doesn't matter, because Rillaboom doesn't do much against either of these Pokemon. And I really need to get a Draco off in the Amoonguss, so I'll try to go for that and a Spore. And they switch out. Okay. Into Rillaboom. I literally just Pollen Puffed that slot, which would have knocked out the Rillaboom. So... And they don't Spore, so I get a Booster Energy Draco Meteor into the Amoonguss, which almost knocks it out. I don't believe it. And unfortunately, I actually don't think Pollen Puff will even do enough to knock this Amoonguss out. And this is the last turn of Trick Room. I will try to Protect and Pollen Puff, but I expect them to Fake Out my Amoonguss. Alright, we're going to see the Fake Out into the Amoonguss. And will we see a Pollen Puff into their own Rillaboom? No, they Sludge Bomb into my Amoonguss. Hey, they're playing pretty well, predicting the Protects and stuff, but now their Amoonguss is threatened to get knocked out because the Trick Room is over. So now I can just click Thunderbolt, the safest play. Still should knock out, I believe. And I will try to Pollen Puff into the Rillaboom. They're going to Drum Beating, but I should still be faster for sure. That does very little. I wonder why they didn't just try to Spore me. I wonder if they expected me to be Safety Goggles. No. They saw Booster Energy. Well, I will take my opponent misplaying, if that's what it takes to win the game. So seeing that their last two are Kyogre and Roaring Moon. I'd actually, even though I'm at -2 special attack, I'd love to just stay in with a Raging Bolt. My Kyogre should always be able to beat their Kyogre 1v1, although they still haven't used Terra. I'm going to try to Draco and Rage Powder. We don't see a Terra from them. And I wonder if this Rage Powder was a waste. No, they do knock off. So I do avoid taking damage on my Raging Bolt. And then we see the Ice Beam. So I stop that going into my Raging Bolt. And the Rage Powder was the correct play. I just need to hit this Draco Meteor. And my Kyogre should be able to win this 1v1. And we hit the Draco Meteor. And that's a clean knockout. Doesn't matter that we're -2. We're still Booster Energy boosted. 130 base power, stab, super effective attack. And now we're left with our Assault Vest Kyogre and a Raging Bolt against their Kyogre. I expect them to be Terra Grass, but I would still like to go for the double electric type attacks here, because a Thunder Paralysis would be very helpful. And we do see the Terra Grass, yep. And I also don't want to lower my special attack anymore with Draco. They're actually just going to Ice Beam, which doesn't knock out the Raging Bolt. But they do outspeed our Kyogre. And I get the Paralysis. That is huge. That basically guarantees this win. Oh, they're Leftovers Kyogre. Interesting. I have seen that set start to pop up. But I'm just going to be clicking Ice Beams and Draco Meteors. We get our Ice Beam off, and that does... Wow. That does more than I expected. And they can't move because of Paralysis. This game is wrapped up. I feel like if my opponent went for the Spore into my Raging Bolt instead of the Sludge Bomb, we'd be in a much different situation right now. But that's another win, and I'll be able to pick up either Rillaboom or Incineroar and add it to my team. And probably finally replace Malamar. I think it's got to be Safety Goggles Incineroar. We saw how much of a problem Amoonguss was for this team. Safety Goggles Incineroar would be huge. And that puts our rank at very close to Master Ball tier. I chose to go for Incineroar instead of Rillaboom because it really just is the best non-restricted in the game. I went with a Safety Goggles set to improve our matchup against Amoonguss and other Sleep Powder users. And then a Terra Ghost to also improve our matchup against Zamazenta and just fighting type moves in general. The move set, we're going Knock Off, Fake Out, Parting Shot, and Will-O-Wisp. No Flare Blitz because I do have the Rain, although if I decide to switch Kyogre with a different restricted, I might switch Will-O-Wisp back for Flare Blitz. And then for the EVs, we have a Careful Nature with almost max HP, very high special defense, and good defense investment with a little bit of speed, and only 4 attack investments. So I won't be doing a lot of damage with this Incineroar, it's mostly just for support. Alright, we're going to be going up against a Sun team. Sun Groudon team. Interesting. Wonder if Amoonguss was the better choice. Alright, we're going to see Groudon, Raging Bolt. But we'll be able to fake out one of these. They don't have a Farigiraf. The Groudon seems like the obvious choice. Alright, it is Clear Amulet, so we don't gotta worry about any Covert Cloak shenanigans. I would love to be able to Terra Grass the Kyogre here. Alright, so we see Fake Out comes out. Groudon is gonna flinch, and then we're gonna see a Volt Switch into the Mimikyu. That's gonna break our disguise, but we'll be able to get a Trick Room off here. What will they be going into? And we see the Urshifu, which is in fact Single Strike. So I'll be able to hit this with a super effective Play Rough this turn here. And then I cannot Parting Shot the Groudon thanks to the Clear Amulet. But I could just switch directly into Kyogre and attempt to Play Rough. Although I would probably have to eat Close Combat. I'm actually going to go for the Will-O-Wisp here and the Play Rough play. If they do Terra Fire the Groudon, which it looks like they probably are, then okay, yeah. We're going to see a Terra Fire. It's unfortunate. We're going to get the knockout here with Play Rough, unless it's a Focus Sash Urshifu, and it is. I guess I should have expected that. Precipice Blades, I expect a double knockout here. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that changes things. This actually looks like a pretty good situation for us. I should be able to Water Spout and Shadow Sneak. I will attempt to Shadow Sneak their Urshifu. If they try to Sucker Punch, this will go first. We're going to see they switch Groudon, probably into Raging Bolt. Yep. So it's probably an Assault Vest set. And then there's the Shadow Sneak to finish off the Urshifu, which probably tried to Sucker Punch if I had to guess. Alright, that does less than half. Makes me think it's definitely Assault Vest, because that's single target Water Spout in the rain. Now they get the Sun Up. I was considering switching Kyogre into Raging Bolt this turn to avoid a situation like this, but I can still, even though it's in the sun, I still think I'm in a pretty good situation here to be able to just Terra Grass and Origin Pulse, and then try to Play Rough the Raging Bolt. So this covers for them trying to Thunderclap. And they're probably just slower. Oh, and unfortunately... Oh, but we're actually slower than the Raging Bolt, which means we outspeed in Trick Room. And that Origin Pulse did way less damage than I expected against that Groudon. Wow. And they critical hit the Kyogre. Now we're in a 2v2 situation, but they have the weather control. But I have the speed advantage for the next 2 turns, I believe. And their last is Flutter Mane. I don't think my Raging Bolt can be one-shot from a Precipice Blades. Oh, this is my last turn of Trick Room. Okay. At this HP, I wonder how much power Water Spout has. It's probably still better for me to go for Water Spout than Origin Pulse because missing would be horrible. And then I think it's actually more important for me. I wonder if they're just going to be double protecting. If they are, there's not really anything I can do about that. But I will try to knock out the Groudon. And we actually see the Groudon protects. And then Flutter Mane protects as well. Flutter Mane doesn't protect. And I misplay very hard by not doubling up into the Flutter Mane. This Moonblast probably just one-shots, and it does. And that's probably going to be the game. Looks like it was a Choice Specs Flutter Mane. Curious how much damage that Thunderbolt would have done. Oh. And we're going up against this this type of team. We're going to want Amoonguss to deal with the potential Dondozo. I think we just want to lead Kyogre. I expect the Smeargle set to be Fake Out, Follow Me, Spore, Wide Guard. I wonder, do these Mucks run Covert Cloaks? I feel like they do, don't they? No, they run like Leftovers, right? No, they run Leftovers. I'm gonna Fake Out and try to Water Spout. So I'm gonna get off a Water Spout. This will really hold back their strategy. Yeah. They're not even Focus Sash, so you're gonna get your Moody and you're gonna get your Minimize off, but and then I guess Flamigo might come out here. And they get a speed increase. Wow. That is unfortunate if they have Flamigo in the back, which I expect them to do, and then they'll have Calyrex. So I'm gonna want to keep my Incineroar alive. They're probably going to be close combating. I'm going to try to bring in a Amoonguss here. And they could have Wide Guard. Thunder can't miss in the rain, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to try to Thunder the Muck. And they go for Wide Guard, expecting me to Water Spout or Origin Pulse. They try to go for another Minimize, but I'm pretty sure Thunder can't miss in the rain. And we connect Thunder. And that's the end of Muck. And that's the end of this strategy. It's a very cheesy strategy, but when you know what's coming, you know how to handle it. Now, I'm not out of the woods yet. Calyrex Shadow is a very strong Pokemon. I can attempt to Spore this Calyrex. And I would like to go for Thunder on the Flamigo since it has +2 evasion. We're going to see an Acrobatics come out from the Flamigo. And thanks to the White Herb, that's going to be boosted. And we see Calyrex knows Psych Up. So now the Calyrex is sitting at +2 evasion, +2 speed. But Thunder will knock out the Flamigo. And now it's just single Calyrex against the entire rest of my team. We're going to see Spore does not miss. And that should just be the game. Now, since they are speed boosted, they will outspeed my Scarf Urshifu. So normally I'd go into Urshifu here, but I'll just go into Incineroar. And I can just launch off Thunders for the rest of this game. But they should forfeit here if they're smart. But nope, they're just going to keep on trying. The fact we were able to stop the Muck from getting a bunch of boosts is what really allowed me to win this game. I expect this to do less than half. Yep. But now I can just fake out and thunder, I believe. I don't think they're covert cloak. They are covert cloak. They would have just said they flinched, right? It looks like they are covert cloak. Wait, did the rain stop? Oh shoot. I wasn't paying attention. Okay. That does very little. And we hit the thunder. Did the rain stop? Was that a raw thunder? I don't see any rain, right? I think I just hit a raw thunder. Against a +2 evasion Calyrex. And from that battle, that should put us in Master Ball tier. And now I get the choice to steal a Pokemon. And I'm thinking it's time to replace Kyogre. Now that we're in Master Ball tier, we need the strongest restricted we can get. And that restricted is Calyrex Shadow. So I'm going to go steal my opponent's Calyrex real quick. So for the Calyrex set, I decided to go with a Covert Cloak Terra Normal Calyrex with max speed, a little bit of special attack investment, and then the rest in HP. And we've got a nasty plot set so that this thing can set up and then just sweep entire teams on its own. And then I'm also going to be changing the Raging Bolt item from Booster Energy to Assault Vest, since Assault Vest isn't on the Kyogre anymore. And I'm going to be changing the Terra to Fairy to give us a more defensive typing. This will allow me to use Snarl to lower special attack and Electro Web to lower speed. Alright, got ourselves a Miraidon matchup. We've got Whimsicott for Farigiraf, Iron Hands, Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Miraidon, and Urshifu. Definitely Urshifu Dark. Anyway, they have the Trick Room and the Tailwind option. Moongus not going to be very good because of the electric train. I don't have a way of getting... Well, I do have Urshifu, but still, that's... I think my Terra Fairy Raging Bolt could be very good. I think I'm actually going to do this speed. So we're going to see Farigiraf Miraidon. Okay. So, obviously I don't want to get hit with a Draco. Electric Seed, that's what I expected. I also don't want to get the Trick Room up because my Calyrex will outspeed their Miraidon. So if I do get the Trick Room up, they could just, you know, obviously not set Tailwind up, and then their Miraidon will outspeed my Calyrex. So I'm going to stay. I'm going to try to play rough. Can't Thunderclap, obviously. I'm going to Terra Fairy and Dragon and Snarl. Yeah. Now they could be Terra Fairy Miraidon as well, but since I'm Terraing first, they definitely did not Terra. They're probably just going to Volt Switch out into my Mimikyu. And that is what happened. So I was thinking about Dragon Pulsing the Farigiraf, get some damage on it. Iron Hands. So then, did they Trick Room? I do get a Play Rough, assuming I hit on this Iron Hands, which could be massive. It'll probably do about half. And we land the Play Rough, it does over half. And we see the Trick Room come out. Okay. Now, obviously they could just Heavy Slam my Mimikyu. Okay, they're not even certain that I have Incineroar in the back. So, I feel like there's no way they predict the Incineroar switch here, right? That would just be insane. And then I can just Dragon Pulse the Iron Hands here. I was thinking about actually going Calyrex, but I don't want my Calyrex under Trick Room. We're gonna see the Terra here. This Iron Hands, so that it won't die to a Play Rough. We see it Terra Bug. Dragon Pulse should still knock it out. I think it's probably an Assault Vest set. Okay, they just fake out. Okay. That damage is... Wow. Now, obviously, I don't want to get hit by a fighting type move on my Incineroar, so now I think I'm actually going to switch back into Mimikyu. And then try to Dragon Pulse the Iron Hands. I should survive a Wild Charge from the Iron Hands, I think. And now I don't have to worry about the Miraidon terroring. Mimikyu comes out. Oh, they Helping Hand. Oh. Now it'll... Okay, but they Drain Punch into the Incineroar. Perfect. Okay. I was really worried about a Wild Charge. And wow, that doesn't KO. Okay. Definitely Assault Vest. 1,000,000%. That's an Assault Vest, Iron Hands. So, they probably have Heavy Slam. I think I'm okay with letting the Mimikyu get Heavy Slammed if they have it. Will an Electro Web knock them out? Based on how much damage Dragon Pulse did, I actually don't think it will. So, I think I actually want to Play Rough and then try to Dragon Pulse again. Okay, they Helping Hand again. What'll it be this time? It's Drain Punch into the Raging Bolt. I guess just to get health back, so now they will survive this Dragon Pulse. Okay. That's a good play. Oh, but we actually knock it out without even getting a crit. Might have been a low damage roll into a high one. Because I'm pretty sure they had more health than we dealt last turn. And here we see Miraidon. But Trick Room is still up. They don't have Terra. And this is a Choice Specs Miraidon, so... Or at least I would assume it's a Choice Specs Miraidon. So I'd like to just Dragon Pulse and Play Rough. They try to Helping Hand. They forget about the Trick Room. And I miss. And Dragon Pulse one-shots because of a crit. I'm pretty sure that mattered. But hey, I mean, we got unlucky with the miss. So it all works out. And for their last, we see Ogerpon. Which is great for my Incineroar. If I were them, I would probably just forfeit here. So I'll just switch into Incineroar and then fire off a Dragon Pulse into the Farigiraf. Don't forfeit. And the Ivy Cudgel into the Raging Bolt. Doesn't knock it out. Get our Dragon Pulse off. And we knock out the Farigiraf. Raging Bolt putting in crazy work this game. 3 knockouts. And now what I can do is I can Fake Out and actually get my Calyrex in. But they're just going to forfeit. Yeah. They had Whimsicott on their team, right? They did. If I can get Whimsicott, I'm going to get Whimsicott. So after 8 battles and a record of 6-2, I have assembled what should be the strongest team in the world. So I'm going to put my team to the test by challenging an experienced VGC competitor to a best of 3. But who will this competitor be? And how will I do? I guess you'll just have to subscribe to find out. Thanks for watching.